Our relationship had been going strong for 3 years, and we had been married for 2 years, and everything appeared to be coming into place. Olivia, my wife, was a driven and ambitious individual who had always envisioned herself achieving great success in her professional life. I applauded that quality of hers, and I made it a point to provide her with assistance in any and every manner that I could. To put it another way,
You need to have
isn't that
some
what a spouse is
rest
supposed
after
to
your
do?
mega
It was a
escape
roller
from
coaster
the
of feelings
dental
for me when
clinic.
Olivia revealed that she had
Go
been
to
given an
sleep.
unexpected opportunity to work for a prestigious company in Europe. To begin, I was overjoyed for her. I was happy for her. She had a dream about this. On the other side, the thought of being separated for such a significant amount of time makes me feel dreadful. On the other hand, Olivia was overjoyed, and the sight of her elation helped me to put my concerns to the side. I informed her that she had to leave, and that I would be there to support her while she pursued her goals and ambitions. In the weeks and months preceding up to her departure, I established myself as her most ardent supporter, in order to free her up to concentrate on getting ready for her new position. I took on additional tasks at home. I went so far as to assist her with packing, conduct research on the most desirable neighborhoods for her to reside in, and handle all of the tedious logistics that she detested, despite the fact that it was difficult to watch her board the plane. I tried to console myself by reminding myself that this was only a temporary obstacle. For a while, we maintained our connection. Olivia would phone me every evening to tell me about her new co-workers, the dynamics of the office, and the allure of the city. Then, we would chuckle over our inside jokes while I updated you on the latest happenings in my life back home. However, as time went on, the number of missed calls decreased. My assumption was that she was simply adjusting to her new life at the time. Afterward, her texts began to have an air of distancing, as if they were written out of necessity rather than real interest in the recipient. I would inquire about her well-being, and she would supply me with one-liners in response. She would avoid the question by stating that it was not yet an appropriate time to visit each other whenever I brought up the possibility of our going to see each other. A sense of unease began to creep into my thoughts, and I made an effort to throw it off. Distance relationships were challenging to maintain. That was common knowledge. I reassured myself that Olivia was only beginning to adjust to her new life, and that she required some time as she did so. It became increasingly difficult to ignore the signs. After a few weeks, it had been 5 months, and her communication had gradually decreased to nearly nothing. Unanswered calls were received. Letters that were left uneaten. I began to feel a sense of worry, and began to wonder if she had been suffering from a catastrophic accident. This caused her to block me, a little. Sharp knife was used to cut into my chest, and it was really painful. When I was in complete disbelief, I recall staring at my phone, and refreshing her profile. I was hoping that it was some kind of error, but it obviously wasn't. Her phone number was no longer active. It was impossible to find any sign of our connection, and her social media pages had been removed entirely. In order to check her social media, I requested that my friends and relatives do so. During this time, her account was briefly disabled. I was in a state of constant fury and anguish, as I spent 7 days attempting to make sense of what had happened. Could it be that I had made a mistake? Would she be trying to inform me that our marriage was finished by doing this? When I attempted to get in touch with her family, they told me that they didn't know very much. Her mother was evasive, and dismissed me with awkward explanations about Olivia's hectic schedule, and the distractions that Facebook and other social media platforms provided for her. My sleep was disrupted. In an effort to find hints, I would spend each night scrolling through previous images of us that were stored on my phone. There was an intolerable lack of sound. Nothing could have adequately prepared me for what I was about to learn, despite the fact that my mind was racing with the worst-case scenarios. Leaving by plane was something I had pondered doing. But I was no longer aware of where she was staying. After I had gotten in touch with the landlord of the home that I had arranged for her, he informed me that she had moved out some weeks ago. I made an effort to get in touch with her company, but I received no response. The company that she talked so much about was not the one where she worked. When I called, I did so several times. I was considering filing a complaint with the police, but her mother prevented me from doing so. Olivia, she told me, was doing well and just needed some distance. She also encouraged me to convey the same message to everyone else. I was informed that she will get in touch with me when she was ready. Although I was extremely perplexed, I waited. It had been close to 2 months since I had attempted to get in touch with her, and I had tried every available method. When I came across it, I was scrolling through our social media accounts. It seems that she had reactivated her account. A picture of her was taken at some kind of formal occasion, and there she was, beaming with happiness. On a baby bump, her hand was resting in a protective manner. Starting a new chapter with the person who is the love of my life was written in the caption. Her boss was the name of the man who stood next to her, and I dimly recognized him from the photographs of her workplace. The message hit me like a freight train. Not only had my wife, the lady whom I had loved and supported to the point of abandonment, but she had also moved on completely. She was carrying a child. When I was married, I smiled, as if I had never existed. Under the law, she was still legally married to me. I had the sensation that my chest had been ripped open, because the betrayal was so blatant and so comprehensive. It was then that my legs finally gave out, and I collapsed onto the couch, staring at the TV while tears clouded my vision. She had not simply abandoned me, she had completely removed me from the narrative of our lives, which she had rewritten. On the one hand, I was looking for answers, but on the other hand, I did not want to resort to running after her because that was what I had been doing so far. There was nothing further to say. It was impossible for me to compete with the illusion that she was living. It seemed as though my entire world was falling apart, and she was over there having fun with another man. My family and friends came together to support me and make an effort to keep me rooted in reality. When I informed my closest friend, Ryan, about what had occurred, he was visibly upset. According to him, she did not deserve my tears, and he advised me to move on with my life and concentrate on myself. When every nook and cranny of my home brought back memories of her, it was easier to say than to do. How come? In what way did she act? She should have had the decency to notify me that it was over, but she didn't. When did I become expendable? In the past, I had been nothing but encouraging. The first update is that I was in a daze for 5 days after I found out about Olivia's betrayal through her social media post. I was overcome with fury, despair, and grief. My parents advised me to concentrate on the things that I could manage. On the other hand, when my entire world had been turned upside down, that seemed inconceivable. It was impossible for me to simply give up and allow her to get away with everything that she had done. Over the course of the subsequent days, I sought the counsel of an attorney. I reached out to a family attorney and took the time to explain the scenario in painstaking detail. I was able to identify with the initial reaction of the attorney, with Olivia having virtually abandoned our marriage and constructed a new life without any legal separation or divorce. She informed me that I had reasons to submit a case for marital fraud. She indicated that I had grounds to do so. I filed the complaint with the system. It appeared to be a baby step toward regaining some measure of control over the situation. Despite the fact that I had no idea whether or not it would amount to anything, at least it was something. My blood began to boil at the thought that Olivia might walk out of my life, destroy everything that we had created, and then spend the rest of her life living happily ever after, without any consequences. While I was working through the legalities, I began to think about how I had been taken by surprise from the beginning. As I continued to play back the final few months of our relationship, I was looking for any indications that I could have overlooked. I felt as though I had been slapped in the face for every moment that I had spent supporting her, cheering her on, and making sacrifices towards her. Despite the fact that I had been her most ardent supporter, she had repaid me with this heinous violation of trust. The legal process moved at a snail's pace, but the straightforward act of submitting the complaint seemed like a mooring. It brought to my mind that I did not have to be a passive observer as she removed me from her life during that time. I presented the attorney with all of the documented evidence that I could locate, including our marriage certificate, evidence of assets that were owned jointly, and recordings of our correspondence before to her disappearance. My attorney gave me the assurance that she would be held accountable for her acts, particularly in the event that she attempted to do other measures that were in violation of the terms of our marriage. What other options did she have? Everything had already been completed by her. In the meantime, I immersed myself in my work in an effort to divert my attention away from the inner turmoil I was experiencing. As soon as they realized anything was wrong, my coworkers not only gave me space but also provided their support. One of my coworkers placed a cup of coffee on my desk along with a message that read, "You've got this." Although it wasn't much, it felt like a lifeline at that very time. As time went on, the hatred I felt toward Olivia started to take precedence over the melancholy I was experiencing. The more I got to know her, the more I realized that she was a self-centered and manipulative individual who was more concerned with her own aspirations and wishes than she was with the people who loved her. At all times, Olivia was entirely concerned with herself. This is the second update. Just when I was about to let go, Olivia made a surprise appearance in the most unexpected way. Since the last time I had heard from her, it had been 7 months. During the course of one evening, I was going through some bills when I heard my phone ring. Europe was the origin of the number. Olivia spoke to the person on the other end of the call. While she was speaking, her voice was trembling, and I could hear the sound of muffled cries in the background. She told me that she needed to talk to me because she was in a difficult situation and she did not know who else she could turn to for help. She was honest enough to admit that her ideal life in Europe had been reduced to a pile of ashes. Her new husband, the man she had left me for, turned out to be a con artist. She had abandoned me for him. It was with a broken voice that she went on to explain that he had been perpetrating some kind of intricate hoax and had completely wiped out her finances. He had vanished, leaving her pregnant and abandoned in a foreign place with no money, no support, and no idea what to do next. She had no financial resources and no support system. I had my suspicions that he was her employer, but then again, what do I know? She wasn't even employed by the company that I had assumed she was working for. I had not yet uttered a single word. My heart was filled with a whirlwind of feelings as I sat there and listened to her detail her emotional saga. Karma was going to punish her in the most severe manner that was imaginable. On the other hand, I couldn't believe her defiance. She had the audacity to come crawling back to me after everything that she had done, wanting compassion and support from me because of her actions. In order to get back on her feet, she asked me if I could assist her in any way, perhaps by sending her some money. She stated that she was aware that she had made errors, but that she was in a difficult situation and had no other options available to her. My silence lasted for a brief period of time, and I let her words to linger in the air. Next, I inquired as to the reason she believed that I owed her anything. I told her that she had blocked me, deactivated her account, and removed me from her life. And then all of a sudden she appeared with a new one without any consideration for how it would impact me. At this point, she was contacting me, anticipating that I would come to her rescue and make it seem as though none of that had occurred. Olivia began to cry more intensely, stating that she did not have anybody else to turn to for support. As a result of her family's abandonment of her, She was terrified for the development of her child. My intention was to tell her to inquire with her mother, but she informed me that she had already inquired with her mother. She pleaded with me to comprehend that she had committed a devastating error, and that all she required was a second chance to put everything in order. You mean that I was her final resort, right? I made it clear to her that I was not her safe haven. Having finished making her bed, she was now required to lie down in it. I informed her that her ability to manipulate or rely on me whenever it was convenient for her was no longer a part of my identity. In the instant that she left my life without so much as a farewell, she had destroyed that bridge from the very beginning. In an attempt to argue, she stated that we had a history together, that we had loved each other in the past, and that this must have meant something. But I interrupted her during her argument. I informed her that love was not a one-way street, and that the moment she chose to ghost me and marry someone else, she had destroyed any love that I had for her. My feelings for her had been obliterated. I informed her that I would have continued to hold her in high esteem if she had just asked me for a divorce and let go of the relationship in a polite manner. However, she had not done so. I informed her that on this particular number, my attorney would get in touch with her regarding the divorce process. Even during the divorce, she had not been in contact with anyone. What was going through her mind? I had no idea. Even if she did not appear, the divorce would likely be granted at some point in the future. All that was required of me was to wait for a few more months. Following the conclusion of the chat, Olivia broke down in tears, and I hung up the phone. Relief, rage, and a tinge of sadness were the unusual sensations that I experienced at the same time. The following day, I called my attorney to provide her with an update on the matter. It was her recommendation that I keep a record of the call, as well as any other interactions with Olivia in the event that she attempted to cause any kind of trouble. I let her know that I had recorded 50% of the call. As soon as I realized that I had taken measures to safeguard myself, I experienced a sense of relief. This is the third update. When Tiffany called, her voice held an air of urgency, as if she were on a heroic quest to remedy a wrong. She seemed dedicated to doing what was right. She began her pleading immediately after making a brusque introduction to herself, and did not waste any time. According to her, Olivia was in a precarious situation, living in a shelter, pregnant, and mentally wrecked. She was barely making ends meet. Tiffany said Olivia had told her how supportive and caring I'd been during our marriage, and she couldn't understand why I was reluctant to step up now. Her tone became abrasive as she accused me of abandoning Olivia in her time of need, portraying me as a heartless and emotionless individual during this time. The tone of my voice was calm, but it was tinged with the irritation that was rising beneath the surface. I waited for her to finish her rant before I spoke. I asked her a simple question. Was she the one who had urged Olivia to leave me in the first place? Tiffany was taken aback and stuttering as she spoke. She made an effort to refute it by claiming that she had never backed Olivia's decisions otherwise than because she believed Olivia was acting in a manner that was beneficial to her. After she had finished speaking, I interrupted her and warned her that showing support for someone does not mean cheering them on blindly when they are making choices that are damaging and risky. I questioned her about whether or not she was also the person who assisted Olivia in writing the ecstatic social media post that announced her new life, including the new spouse, the baby that was on the way, and the new beginning in Europe. Have she assisted Olivia in the process of composing the ideal captions to add salt to my wounds while Olivia was busy playing home with her new boyfriend? Tiffany stated that Olivia had been caught up in the bustle of her new relationship, and that everyone makes errors. Tiffany's attempt to deflect the situation was unsuccessful. The tone of her voice changed to one of defensiveness, as if she were attempting to portray herself as a bystander who was not guilty. It was my recommendation to her that if she was so concerned about Olivia's health, she ought to take responsibility for her own care and take Olivia in. During the time that Olivia was cleaning up her mess, I inquired as to whether or not she would be willing to offer her with a place to sleep, supplies of food, and mental support. With a stutter, Tiffany asserted that she did not possess the financial means or the resources necessary to take Olivia in. She expressed that she wanted she could be of greater assistance, but that her circumstances did not permit her to do so. At that same instant, I was unable to contain my anger. It was convenient for her to preach about compassion and responsibility when she wasn't the one being asked to clean up Olivia's mess. I informed her in a straightforward manner. However, she continued to preach about these topics. In light of the fact that she was unwilling to put her money or her time where her mouth was, I claimed that her sudden care for Olivia was a fake gesture. Tiffany attempted to interject by stating that I did not have a complete understanding of the situation. I interrupted her once more. I assured her that I had no problem understanding her. Olivia had just finished making her bed, and she was now anticipating that I would lie down in it for her while she dug my grave subsequent to that. At this point, Tiffany, who had most certainly been the one who promoted her self-centered decisions, was attempting to coerce me into accepting responsibility for someone who had treated me as if I were a disposable backup plan. I informed her that I would have no choice but to employ the services of my attorney in the event that she or anyone else continued to harass me regarding this matter. My words were not a bluff. My attorney and I had already discussed the subject, and he informed us that we were fully within our rights to bring a harassment claim if the calls and messages continued. Immediately, Tiffany's tone changed considerably. She made an attempt to retract her statement, claiming that she was not trying to bother me but rather was merely concerned for Olivia. She stated that she had no intention of making me angry, and that she merely wanted to start a conversation with me. I was not going to buy it. When Olivia made the decision to ghost me, marry another guy, and flaunt her new life without so much as a shred of decency, I told her that discourse was no longer relevant. It was my intention to convey to her
so
that I did
much.
not owe Olivia
I
or
am
anybody
a
else
local
related to her
stalker.
anything. In her final attempt to beg for help,
My sewers
Tiffany's
used
voice
to be
faltered as she
calm
made her
and
final
peaceful.
appeal. Her statement was that the
Before
infant did
this
not deserve to
abnormal
suffer as a
blood
result of
suddenly
Olivia's actions,
appeared.
and that if I took action, I would be able to make a
It
significant
attacked
impact
a
on the child's
rat,
life. A nerve was
mutated,
touched by
and grew to
that, but not in the
gigantic
way that she had
sizes.
intended. I expressed my feelings for the baby, but I made it clear that it was not mine.
I
I
decided
informed her
to
that if
follow
Olivia's
it.
new husband did
The
not feel for
cloud
her
has
or the
settled in
kid,
the sewer
then there was no
cleaning
reason for me to feel
section
the same way.
and
I inquired of her
creates
whether or not
its
I had the word
hateful
fool written on my
globster.
forehead. By saying
As
that it
a
was Olivia's
result
job to
of
determine the kind of
absorbing
life she
all
wanted to
sewer
create for her
waste.
child, I meant that it was not actually
We
my
must
obligation.
stop
While Tiffany
this
remained
thing.
silent for a brief period of time, she eventually mumbled something about how she hoped I would reconsider. Her voice was shaking now, as if she had come to the realization that she had lost any moral high ground that she had previously believed she possessed. I closed the call with a final statement. I informed her that if she contacted me again, I would follow through with my legal threats. She was told that my life did not center on cleaning up the messes of individuals who had no regard for me, and that I was not going to let Olivia's poor choices bring me down. I also told her that I was not going to let Olivia bring me down. As soon as I hung up, I had a concoction of relief and frustration. Being forced to defend myself against individuals who refused to see the bigger picture was a difficult and exhausting experience. Tiffany's arrogance was nearly hilarious. However, despite the fact that she had described me as emotionless and cold, she was not willing to do anything to assist Olivia herself. It was obvious that Tiffany, much like Olivia, was accustomed to shifting blame and expecting others to bear the consequences of their poor choices. On the other hand, I was not going to fall into their trap. For such a considerable amount of time, I had been the spouse who constantly put the needs of others ahead of my own. On the other hand, Olivia's treachery had compelled me to reconsider the kind of things I was ready to put up with in my life. It dawned on me that I had wasted an excessive amount of time attempting to cure things that were beyond repair, and that it was time for me to let go of those things. Update 4. When Olivia's mother called, I readied myself for yet another attempt at manipulation. In a tone that was oozing with disdain, she did not waste any time before leaping to Olivia's rescue. When Olivia was in need of assistance, she claimed that I was being cruel and vindictive by not providing assistance to her. She stated that a genuine man would take responsibility, regardless of what had occurred in the past. There was a brief pause during which I listened, allowing her to dig her hole deeper before I intervened. During the time that she, Olivia's own mother, was not doing anything to assist her daughter, I informed her that she had the audacity to lecture me about taking responsibility. I asked her in a direct manner why she wasn't the one who was going to step in. Wasn't it her obligation as a mother to support her child? Her response was extremely replete with justifications. She stated that she had made every effort to do so, but that she did not possess the necessary financial resources. She attempted to defend her inaction by arguing that she could not reasonably take on such a load at her age, but her voice was hardly audible as she made her argument. It was my intention to convey to her that her remarks sounded empty, just like Tiffany's. Undoubtedly, she was aware of who she was. Due to her lack of loyalty and character, I inquired as to whether or not she had actually given birth to Olivia, or had simply picked her up off the street. I speculated that the latter was more likely. I mentioned that even homeless people frequently demonstrate a higher level of commitment and concern for one another than Olivia had ever given me, or than she was exhibiting her daughter at this moment in her role as a mother. My annoyance was only increasing as a result of her outraged sputtering. I questioned how Mom had raised Olivia to become someone who thought it was acceptable to betray and abandon people left and right. I stated that it was not surprising that Olivia had made such a mess of her life because she had such a model to look up to throughout her childhood. When she attempted to assert that she had served as a mother to the best of her abilities, her tone became defensive. She said Olivia had always been stubborn and difficult, as though it relieved her of any blame. I didn't let up. I asked her whether she had also been through 4 or 5 marriages like Olivia, and if that was the reason why Olivia came to the conclusion that it was completely acceptable to approach relationships as if they were disposable commodities. First, there was a little pause in the conversation, and then she abruptly responded, stating that I had no authority to pass judgment on her or her family. After a bitter laugh, I reminded her that I wasn't passing judgment but just expressing the facts. I stated that Olivia had made it very plain what type of person she was when she ghosted me, married another guy while she was still married to me, and flaunted her new life on social media without showing even the slightest bit of decency. My message to her was that I did not wish to hear any further justifications for Olivia's behavior. Her tone was trembling as she attempted to alter her strategy in order to appeal to my compassion. She explained that Olivia was pregnant, terrified, and living alone in a foreign country, and that it would not be fair to punish her for mistakes that she now was sorry she had made. At that point, I halted her. I stated to her that Olivia was responsible for dealing with her own regrets, not mine. If she honestly felt guilty for what she had done, she could prove it by showing up in court and facing the consequences like an adult. I cautioned her not to even consider the possibility of blaming me for Olivia's mess. I reminded her that I had been nothing but supportive during my marriage to Olivia, and that I didn't deserve the treachery I had undergone. If she or anybody else in their family believed that they could use guilt to get me to take Olivia back, I told them that they were gravely inaccurate in their assumption. I advised her that if she was so determined to assist Olivia, She need to take responsibility for her own actions. I inquired as to the reason for her refusal to offer to bring Olivia back to her house, provide her with a place to stay, and assist her in getting back on her feet. I cut her off in the middle of her stuttering about not having the means to do what she needed to do. I replied, her excuses sounded an awful lot like the ones Olivia had given me. One more attempt was made by her to accuse me of being guilty, claiming that Olivia's child did not deserve to suffer as a result of her mother's faults. I told her that was something Olivia should have thought about before making the decisions she did. I refused to take care of a child who was not mine, and I told her that I would not do so. While some people like her might be okay with it, I wasn't. Once that was done, I struck the final blow. I explained to her in a straightforward manner that I do not accept trash back, regardless of how sad it may appear to be. The call came to a close with me issuing a warning that I would not be drawn into their mess anymore under any circumstances. I urged her to tell Olivia that if she was so experienced at finding new spouses, she could find another one to clean up after her if she was so adept at finding new husbands. And I informed her that Olivia may show up in court if she had anything to say to me. How can people be so shameless? I don't understand why I hadn't noticed something like this before. Indeed, what they claim is accurate. When you are with someone you love, you tend to view everything through rose-colored glasses. The fifth update is that Olivia has at long last returned. The word spread rapidly through rumors that circulated inside the family and among acquaintances, despite the fact that I had lost interest in participating in the gossip. My understanding is that Olivia's mother had finally taken action, but it was not out of a sense of maternal instinct. Rather, she was acting out of a desperate need to protect her own reputation. After seeing that I wasn't going to budge, she sent Olivia the money to return home. One may say that it was poetry. The same mother who tried to blame me for not taking Olivia back had to foot the fee herself. I did not feel any compassion. Olivia was able to destroy every bridge that she had ever traversed, and now she was standing on the flaming ashes with nowhere to go. The divorce was already finalized by the time Olivia arrived back on soil that she had previously called home. There was no protest from her. She was unable to. Not in light of all the facts that I had accumulated. Almost all of the decisions that the court made were favorable to me. Olivia owed me a considerable amount of money as part of the settlement. An amount she had no possibility of paying anytime soon. That wasn't the end of it. She had been caught up in the legal repercussions that resulted from her exploits in Europe. With the help of the investigation that was prompted by the fraud case that I had filed, the authorities were able to piece together the disaster that she and her lover had made. The interaction that she and I had over the phone was really damaging. They provided a clear picture of her fearlessness, her chutzpah, and her propensity to manipulate anyone who stood in her way. They also painted a picture of her lack of remorse. The judge displayed a lack of reserve. The entire absence of accountability on Olivia's part was brought to his attention during the sentencing process. He claimed that she did not exhibit any regret for the suffering that she had brought on to not just me, but also to other people whom she had deceived along the line. Her legal representative utilized every possible strategy in order to secure a reduced sentence for her client. He argued that she was substantially pregnant, and that incarceration would be an excessively severe punishment. It was unsuccessful. A sentence of 2 years was handed down by the judge, who stated that Olivia's acts were planned, calculating, and motivated by her own self-interest. The fact that she was pregnant did not release her from duty. In fact, it made her decisions much more terrible than they already were. In the moments leading up to the beginning of her sentence, Olivia had given birth. According to what I was told, the infant was a female. During the time that Olivia was doing her sentence, she was placed in the care of Olivia's mother. My heart went out to the child who had been brought into the world under such a chaotic set of circumstances. I couldn't help but feel sad for them. For her sake, I wished that someone in that family would step up to the challenge and provide her with a life that was superior than the one that her mother had experienced. However, according to my understanding, Olivia's story came to an end at that point. It was as if I had completely removed my hands from her. I had moved on from the legal proceedings, the never-ending drama, and the emotional toll that it had taken on me. When I consider everything that has transpired up until this point, I am astounded by the amount of knowledge I have gained about people, about trust, and about resiliency. Olivia's treachery had almost caused me to break down. However, it also compelled me to confront the strength that I possess. In spite of the fact that I have been put through a lot, I have emerged from this experience with a more distinct understanding of who I am and what I will and will not tolerate in my life. Update number 6. I am aware that there are some people who could argue that I ought to feel some level of contentment with the way things worked out for Olivia. But the reality is that I do not. There is no plan for retribution. Closure is the focus here. Olivia's decisions led her down a route that ultimately led to her own demise, whereas I have made the decision to take a completely other path. I've begun the process of reconstructing my life by concentrating on the things and people that are actually important to me. I've been back in touch with old acquaintances. I've been looking for new chances. And I've even begun to become excited about the possibilities that the future may bring for me. I have avoided becoming involved in any romantic relationships. This is my therapy session. She had abandoned me in such a horrible manner, and I have no idea what her motivation was. Having a desire to live a better life is understandable, but she could have done a better job of it. Regarding her, I have high hopes that she would one day discover a way to reconcile herself with herself. For the sake of that tiny child who did not ask to be born into this mess, not for my own sake, but for the sake of herself. Any person who is reading this should take this as a lesson. Never allow the treachery of another person to define you. Grow as a result of it, learn from it, and then go on. Mostly due to the fact that, at the end of the day, you are worth a great deal more than the lies and betrayal of other people. This is the final update I have. My sister insisted on June 20th for her baby shower. Even I said it clashed with my anniversary, so I took my trip and watched her struggle without me. Audrey, 27, my 30 female sister, lives 3 hours from me and has for 3 years. After I married Luke 3 years ago, we became less connected. Audrey and Luke were incompatible. She thought I was rushing into marriage because Luke and I dated for 10 months before getting engaged. Several times. She said I barely knew him and should wait. I wasn't concerned then. I thought she'd change her mind after seeing how happy we were. The wedding was small. Maybe 45 people attended. My bridesmaid Audrey spent most of the reception in the bar with her then boyfriend Dylan. My aunt said Audrey appeared bored during the ceremony. I ignored it because weddings are long and not everyone likes sitting through them. Audrey and I spoke possibly monthly after the wedding. She moved for work, so we saw each other less. A year after my wedding, she dumped Dylan for Henry. I only met Henry at a family Christmas meal 1.5 years ago. He seemed friendly but quiet. Audrey told me they were serious, but never disclosed their connection. From here, everything went wrong. Audrey contacted me unexpectedly on a Tuesday night 7 months ago. So she told me she was pregnant, honored her, and inquired about Henry. She said they were together but he worked a lot. She switched topics when I asked if they were getting married. I should have noticed that was weird. Audrey requested my baby shower planning assistance a few weeks after that call. She stated our mom worked too much, and our sister Caroline lived out of state. I replied, "Sure. A project would be wonderful." We started planning via video call. Audrey suggested June 20th for the baby shower during that call. My wedding anniversary. I informed her. Luke and I planned a weekend getaway for our 5th anniversary. A milestone. We reserved an upstate property with a non-refundable deposit. Audrey paused before saying the date was best for her schedule and Philip's out-of-town family. I proposed the weekend before or after. No, it had to be that weekend since Philip's mom could only come that weekend, and she wanted his family there. I said it was my wedding anniversary. The baby was her first and she has anniversaries every year. I'd help plan it, but I couldn't attend if it stayed on that date. She snapped and stated she thought I'd want to be present for her life's big events. She ended the call. Mom called me the next day. She claimed Audrey was upset, and I should rethink. I told him about the cabin, deposit, and months of preparation with Luke. My parents let me reschedule with Luke, but Audrey couldn't, because of Philip's family. When I inquired why Philip's family schedule was more important than my marriage, she stated I was being unreasonable. Luke and I discussed it that night. He suggested we could move our trip if it meant that much to my family, but I could tell he didn't want to. We'd both like to leave. We needed time together after his demanding job. I said our plans wouldn't change. I texted Audrey that I'd help prepare and donate to the shower, but I wouldn't attend if she kept it on June 20th. She sent a long note saying I'd always been selfish and never supported her. She repeated that I didn't involve her in my wedding planning. It wasn't. I invited her to select flowers, but she replied she was busy. Her comment also stuck with me. She said that Luke changed me and I cared more about him than my family. She said I was entertaining before marriage but now uninteresting and just cared about my spouse. I ignored that message. I sent her $250 via Venmo for the shower, and hoped everything went well. She didn't reply. My mom called again 2 weeks later. She stated Audrey was having difficulties finding a shower host since I stopped helping. I reminded her that I would help arrange it but not attend my anniversary. Audrey required a home host since the venue she picked was too pricey, my mom remarked. Audrey requested it at my house. My backyard is vast and my house is decent. I refused my mom's family gatherings despite hosting them. Hosting meant I had to be there. And I wasn't going to cancel my anniversary plans. I felt silly arranging my house for a party and leaving. Mom stated I was unreasonable. She stated Audrey arranged the date so Philip's family could come, and his mother was involved and wanted to be there. Considering his mom's rigid schedule, I asked Audrey why she couldn't celebrate with Philip's family on a different date. My mom remarked I didn't realize Audrey's pregnant struggle. That surprised me. Audrey didn't discuss the pregnancy's difficulty. I asked what was going on and my mom was unclear. Audrey was worried and struggling with a lot, she added. My mom maintained there were no medical issues, only pregnant symptoms. Caroline called next. She said Audrey felt hurt after talking to her. Caroline replied she understood my stance but could we compromise? Caroline didn't know what compromise would work. She just stated that families should help each other. I felt insane. I requested nothing unreasonable. I offered planning and funding. Everyone was behaving like I was doing a terrible crime against my sister. But I just wanted to keep my anniversary plans. Luke ordered me to cease talking to them. We should follow our plans, he replied. He noted that Audrey had never tried much with us as a couple. We invited her several times but she didn't come. She rarely spoke to Luke during family functions. He thought she wanted me to prove I'd pick her over him. Audrey texted me. My mom, Caroline, and our Aunt Jessica a week before the baby shower. She told me she was disappointed in me for leaving her at a crucial time. She stated good sisters support one another and she thought I didn't care about her or her baby. She said she'd know where I was if I skipped the shower. Without responding, I quit the group chat. Luke and I traveled. Excellent weekend. Hiking, cooking dinner at the cabin, and relaxing were our activities. My phone was off for most of it. After turning it on Sunday night, I had 37 unread messages. Most were from my departed group chat. Mom asked me where I was. Caroline attempted mediation. Audrey wrote me multiple messages calling me selfish, and said I ruined her shower by focusing on me. Aunt Jessica privately advised me to apologize. There were also texts from my dad, who avoids family strife. He advised me to call Audrey since she cried in the shower. Audrey had to explain why I chose my anniversary over her baby shower when people kept asking where I was. I didn't call Audrey. I emailed my dad back that I offered to help in every way except attending my anniversary and that Audrey chose the date knowing I couldn't. No baby shower for me. I learned from the texts that 25 people attended at my mom's place. Philip's mother reportedly spoke about her excitement expecting her first grandson. Audrey tagged everyone except me in social media photos. That was 4 weeks ago. Audrey and I haven't spoken since. Mom has called twice to ask when I'll apologize. Caroline emailed me an article about sibling dispute resolution. I haven't answered either. Audrey's designing the nursery is difficult because Philip works late most evenings. My mom told me last week. She suggested I drive up and paint or assemble furniture. No, I said. She asked why I punished Audrey for one argument. No punishment, I said. I didn't want to go 5 hours round trip to help someone who labeled me selfish for keeping my anniversary plans. Luke suggests I take a break from their calls. He thinks people won't grasp my perspective. Therefore, I'll keep being furious. He's probably right, but these are my family. My dad is the only one who hasn't pressured me, but he hasn't claimed I was right either. I keep thinking about it. Was it wrong to not shift my plans? Should I have calmed down and showered? Everyone says I should have, but I think giving in would have formed a pattern where Audrey's needs come first. No idea what's next. Audrey's due within 4 months. I expect to visit the infant, help, and appear normal. Part of me wants to help. Another part of me thinks reaching out first will prove her right and me wrong. Update 1. I wasn't planning to update, but things happened that must be reported. Audrey gave birth 4 weeks ago. A boy. My mom texted me during labor and after the kid was born. She sent pics. I regarded them. It looked like a baby. I ignored my mom's texts about how gorgeous he was and how I needed to meet my nephew soon. Caroline called me the day Audrey returned from the hospital.
Hey,
Audrey needs help
here.
breastfeeding and sleeping, she added.
Do you
I
see
approached
the
Philip for
ventilation
assistance.
duct?
Caroline paused and stated Philip was there, but had to work. I thought that was challenging, but I wasn't driving there. Caroline wondered if I would harbor a grudge against my nephew. I didn't harbor a grudge against anyone, including the baby, but I wouldn't lie and say Audrey was okay. Caroline stated Audrey was too weary to handle our difficulties, and I should be the larger person. Luke asked her what she wanted after we hung up. He shook his head and said they were unbelievable when I informed him. Audrey had Philip and his family in a baby shower with gifts and encouragement, he said. Why did I have to abandon everything to help her? Mom called that weekend. After living with Audrey for a week, she needed to return to work. She requested my assistance for a few days. No, I said. She cried on the phone. She asked why I was doing this, and claimed Audrey needed family. Audrey had family. She had Henry, and his mother was involved in the baby shower. My mom mentioned Henry's mother returned home and he worked 12-hour shifts. I wondered why Henry worked so much after his baby was born. My mother stated they needed cash. That was the first hint of money issues. Asking what was happening, my mom hesitated and stated Audrey and Henry were struggling to pay rent. She stated that Audrey wasn't working and Henry's job paid less than expected. My mom stated Henry couldn't afford paternity leave when I inquired. That talk seemed odd. Luke agreed after we discussed it. He thought the narrative had more to it. I called Dad. My dad is always more direct than my mom. He sighed when I asked about Audrey and Henry. Henry was staying less at the flat, he added. Henry was missing when my dad visited Audrey and the baby. Audrey said it worked, although it was 10 Saturday night. I asked my dad about Henry's infidelity. He wasn't sure, but something seemed wrong. He also informed me Audrey requested money for her rent this month. Despite worrying about next month, he gave it to her. Audrey called me 3 days following this talk with my dad. Called, not texted. Instead of not answering, I did. She invited me to stay for a week. She said my mom worked and couldn't do this alone. Where was Henry? He was working, she claimed. What time did he get home from work? Day to day, she said. I asked her directly if Henry lived with her. She was quiet for ages. She said he was staying with his friend after a quarrel. I asked when they fought. She said 3 weeks back. After the birth, 3 weeks ago. Asking what they thought. It was complicated, she remarked. I stated I had time to listen. She defensively denied calling me about Henry. She called for baby help. I told her I couldn't leave for a week, and that Henry, the baby's father, needed to resolve things. She accused me of cruelty. She stated she took care of me and I couldn't do the same for her. I asked when she helped me. She couldn't respond. She said I was touching her face and that my marriage was fine but hers was failing. Audrey and Henry weren't simply fighting. I realized. Whether they were together anymore. She cried and hung up. With my phone in hand, I tried to figure out what occurred. Luke came in and I told him about the call. His impression was that Henry left Audrey immediately after the birth. I called it insane. He stated insane things happen often. That night, Caroline called. Audrey informed her I didn't help, and made Henry seem worse. I replied I didn't affect her. Just questions. Caroline advised me to be more sensitive. I asked Caroline about Henry leaving. Yes, she said. I inquired why nobody told me. Audrey felt ashamed when she stated it wasn't their business to tell me. I requested Caroline to help Audrey. Caroline stated she couldn't take time off work. I inquired why I could take time off but not her. Since I worked from home, she said it was easier. I told her I had duties even though I worked from home. My mom called again the next day. She stated, Audrey informed her about our talk. She stated I kicked Audrey when she was down. Audrey couldn't answer my simple Henry location questions. Audrey didn't need judgment just now, my mom explained, because Henry's position was complicated. I asked my mom if I should go up there and play house with Audrey, and pretend everything was normal. She asked me to help my sister, who had a baby alone. I argued Audrey's choices caused the problem, including having a baby with someone who wasn't dedicated. My parents felt I was nasty, and had changed since marriage. I heard that from family twice. Audrey first, then mom. I inquired about her meaning. She remarked, I used to care about family, and now I only cared about Luke and myself. I disagreed. Not only did I care about my family, but also my life and marriage. I was branded selfish for offering to help with the baby shower, except for my anniversary. Audrey wanted me to abandon everything and stay with her for a week, and I was considered heartless for not doing so. Audrey had a newborn, so my mom said this was different. I stated Audrey's baby's father should help. Men don't always step up, my mom said. Not my problem to repair. We haven't talked since that call. 1 week ago. Dad came over for dinner 2 nights ago. Audrey was returning to my parents, he remarked. Henry had said he wouldn't return, and she couldn't afford the flat without him. Henry allegedly told Audrey he felt stuck and never wanted kids. He promised to pay child support but wouldn't become involved. I wondered why Audrey had a baby with a child-averse man. Audrey thought Henry would change his mind when the kid was delivered, said my dad. I said that plan was bad. My dad agreed, but claimed nothing could be done. He asked whether I'd visit Audrey at my parents' house when she settled in. I agreed to consider. He understood why I was distant. But Audrey was my sister. I knew it, but I couldn't keep fixing things for her, especially since she never apologized for her treatment. My dad stated Audrey was proud and wouldn't apologize. I stated we were deadlocked. That wasn't disputed. Luke and I discussed it that night. He advised me not to contact out because my family was pressing me. If I wanted a relationship with Audrey and my nephew, it should be because I actually wanted it, not because I felt obligated. I don't know what I want yet. Henry leaving with a newborn is terrible for Audrey. But part of me still hates the baby shower and how she's treated Luke and me. I'm sick of being called the issue for trying to set boundaries. Update 2. Audrey moved in with my dad 3 months ago. My mom routinely shares baby photos on social media. She tags photographs with blessings like raising her grandson and family being everything. I understand the posts are for me. Caroline visited last month. After calling me, she stated Audrey asked about me. What did she want to know? Caroline said Audrey wanted to know if I would meet the baby. I asked Caroline what she said. She promised Audrey I'd return. Not sure if that's true. Mom texted me 4 weeks ago asking whether I'd attend the baby's baptism. First time hearing about a baptism. I remained silent. She texted the date and location 3 days later. I remained silent. Last week. She called. She asked how many people were coming to give the caterer a head count. Attending wasn't my plan. Why not? I explained Audrey, and I hadn't spoken in months, and I wouldn't pretend everything was good at a family function. My mom stated the baptism was about the baby, not Audrey and me. I stated the infant wouldn't remember anyone. My absence will be remembered, she added. I accepted that. She warned me I'd regret it. She suggested it would be too late if I wanted a relationship with my nephew. I told Audrey could locate me if she wanted me in her son's life. My mom hung up silently. The baptism was yesterday. I stayed. Instead, Luke and I hiked. Luke commented that a pair with a baby carrier on the route appeared exhausted. I said so. We both agreed we weren't rushing to have kids. I received texts from Caroline and Aunt Jessica about missing the baptism when we returned home. Caroline said Audrey seemed upset when she inquired whether I was coming. Aunt Jessica stated I was stubborn and harming everyone. Both mails were erased without reply. Audrey then messaged me. She wished I'd come. She claimed she would have valued it. She didn't grasp my hatred for her. Staring at that message was long. I repeatedly typed an answer and deleted it. Finally, I replied that I didn't hate her. She never showed up for me, so I was tired of being expected to. My anniversary baby shower was highlighted. I said she'd never tried with Luke. I described how she branded me selfish, and then wanted me to sacrifice my life for her. Within minutes, she replied. She admitted she botched the baby shower, but she was pregnant, worried, and confused. Not to hurt me, she said. She stated Henry leaving made her realize how important family was, and she didn't want to lose me. I didn't know how to respond. I showed Luke the messages. He thought Audrey was lonely, wanted her sister back, and wasn't accepting responsibility for her actions. He said being pregnant and worried was an excuse. I deliberated for 3 days. I texted Audrey back. I appreciated her reaching out, but I wanted more than an explanation for her actions. I needed her to understand and apologize for the hurt. I told her to stop acting like Luke was the problem when he never hurt her. She didn't reply for a week. When she did, she apologized for scheduling the baby shower on my anniversary. She stated she should have picked a different day, but she didn't believe it was fair for me to involve Luke, because her difficulties with him were distinct. I inquired about her concerns with him. He took me from my family, she said. Not across the country, but an hour from my folks. I quit my job before meeting Luke. It wasn't distance, she said. She said I changed after marriage and became someone she didn't recognize. Asking how I changed. She listed. I called her less. I visited less. I neglected her. I noted that she didn't call, visit, or make time for me. She stated that was different since I got married and moved on while she was still sorting things out. Audrey believed I'd leave her by marrying. She believed I favored Luke. Nothing I said would change her thinking because she believed it. I told her I loved Luke without apologizing. I tried to incorporate her in my life with him, but she refused. She expressed her opinions about my marriage, and was now suffering with the consequences. She said I choose him again. My pleasure and calm were my choice. Differences existed. Since then, no texts. That was 3 weeks ago. Dad called me yesterday. He said Audrey was struggling with being a single mom and living with them again. He said my mom helped but controlled Audrey's baby rearing. He said the house was always tense. I asked him to recommend reaching out. He stated only if I wanted to, not because I should. He acknowledged my position, and didn't blame me for staying away. Despite the difficulty, he was proud of me for setting boundaries. My dad probably didn't realize how much the talk meant to me. This was the first time my relatives had acknowledged they understood my perspective without hitting me. Luke inquired whether my dad conversation made me feel better. Said I did. He asked if I would contact Audrey. No, I said. Once he agreed, we left it. Update 3. I'm posting this final update to answer questions and conclude this chapter for myself. Audrey left my parents' house last month. She moved to a small apartment near work and put the baby in daycare. Dad gave her a deposit and first month's rent. My mom resisted him because she wanted Audrey to stay with him longer. Audrey told Dad she couldn't live with my mom longer. My dad told me this 4 weeks ago when he came for dinner. He said my mom was mad at him for Audrey leaving. Despite home tensions, he thought Audrey made the correct choice. He advised Audrey to become self-sufficient rather than dependent on her parents. Caroline texted me 2 weeks ago wondering about Audrey. No. I said. Audrey had come out to her for help. She added. Caroline requested me to talk to Audrey if she called. I didn't know. Caroline believed Audrey had evolved from everything. I didn't reply. Audrey called 5 days later. We were invited to coffee. I agreed to consider. She wanted to try even though I wasn't ready. I promised to inform her. Luke and I discussed it. He said I could meet Audrey, but I should be clear about what I want from a relationship. He stated I needed to recognize my limits or I'd repeat the process. I contemplated it for 3 days. I then listed what Audrey required from me to have a relationship. I needed her to quit blaming Luke for my changes. I wanted her to honor my marriage. I wanted her to own her choices without excuses. I needed her to realize I didn't live for her. I texted her that I'd meet for coffee, but I had to say something first. She replied. Okay. We met yesterday at a coffee shop halfway between us. She looked drained. My mom had the baby. I brought out my list when we sat down and had drinks. Each point was reviewed. Without interrupting, she listened. She paused after I finished. She stated she wouldn't always agree with my choices, but she'd respect them. She admitted it was unfair that she put her needs before mine. She said Henry leaving made her realize how she'd handled her loved ones. Asking about Luke particularly. She didn't mind Luke's character. She complained about feeling left behind after I married. She knew Luke and I weren't to blame, but she made it theirs since she didn't know how else to handle it. I inquired about her therapy. Yes, she said. She started going a month ago after my dad advised it. She stated it helped her process a lot. I didn't comment. We chatted for an hour. Not warm or easy. Our chats were honest for the first time in years, despite occasional long silences. Finally, she requested if she could email me baby images. Yes, I said. I was invited to meet him. I said maybe later. But I wasn't ready. I understand. She replied. I haven't seen her since that coffee meetup, but she sent me 3 baby pictures. I wasn't responding but looked at them. I'm not ready for regular contact. Luke says I can move at my own pace. Mom is still mad at me. She told my dad I was torturing Audrey and the baby by being away. My dad told her otherwise, but she didn't listen. I probably have the worst relationship with my mom. That may not alter. Caroline has abandoned mediation. Last week, she apologized for pressing me and said she understood why I needed distance. I appreciate it. Audrey and I's future connection is unknown. Our closeness has deteriorated. We're chatting more than before, but I don't know if we will again. Luke inquired if I was happy or disappointed about the outcome. I said both. He found that reasonable. Everything from the past 7 months is on my mind. The baby shower, fights, baptism I didn't attend, Audrey and my sluggish communication recovery. I'm glad I set limits. If I'd given in, I'd have lost respect for myself, and Luke would have recognized that I'd put my family before our marriage. I now see Audrey was coping with more than I understood. Henry leaving after the baby was born was cruel. While her life fell apart, mine remained stable. I don't defend her behavior, but I now understand why she was desperate for help and outraged when I declined. Audrey and I won't be close soon. Maybe in a few months, I'll meet my nephew. My mom and I will have boundaries. The friendship I rebuilt with my dad will continue. I'll keep prioritizing my marriage because it's important to me. People keep asking if I did right by skipping the baby shower. Still think I did. That decision shaped everything else. I'd cave on everything if I caved on my anniversary. You must sometimes establish a line and see who follows it. Audrey initially disregarded it, but now she does. Best result I could have hoped for. Move on to the next story. Story 2. The company hired my best friend, thanks to my spouse. I saw them at a hotel on a business trip 8 months later. I was frozen in the hotel lobby. I walked a few blocks the night before my major presentation to clear my brain. I was surprised to see my spouse, Miles, 31M, and best friend, Grace, 30F, enter the same hotel. Watching them check in, I hid behind a large potted plant, my heart beating. He held his hand on her petite back as they took the elevator after the receptionist gave them a keycard. I thought I'd become sick. Miles and I, 32F, have been together 9 years and married 4 years. We met in college, and I always felt we were close. Like every couple, we had ups and downs, but nothing serious. No major conflicts or trust difficulties. We cherished our time together, worked hard, and shared home duties. Miles has always been quiet. Instead of going to parties, he loves staying in, watching movies, and having game nights with our small group of friends. With me, he opened up about his feelings, which he rarely did. I believed he was. My best buddy Grace is from high school. We kept in touch while attending different colleges. When we returned home 3 years ago, our friendship was as fresh as ever. Maid of honor at my wedding, she helped me relocate into our house. I called her for guidance or simply to talk. Miles and Grace were friendly but never close. They chatted at parties, but that was it. Grace was laid off from a marketing agency 10 months ago due to restructuring. Finding something new in her field was difficult. Miles, a project manager at a prominent software company, informed me of their marketing opening. I advised Miles to recommend Grace. He was initially cautious to mix personal and business ties, but I persuaded him. I expected they would be in different departments. Most notable campaigns involved close collaboration between marketing and project management. Miles and Grace worked on many projects over 8 months. They started carpooling to work because they lived near the office. I was initially pleased with their good relations. Grace was dating someone, making our infrequent double dates less awkward. Miles started acting differently about 3 months ago. He worked late more often. He sent fewer, shorter texts. He gave unclear responses and swiftly moved the subject when I asked about his day. He stopped telling me the little things about work. He said it was just a difficult project deadline when I asked whether everything was okay. Grace also broke up with her lover. She called crying one night. So I brought ice cream and wine to her house. Miles was strangely unsupportive, suggesting I was enabling her, and she should handle her breakup herself. It was unlike him. He was constantly sympathetic to our pals in trouble. Get to this week. An important client presentation required me to travel to Philadelphia. Despite the 2-day travel, the presentation was vital to my career. Miles seemed odd when I informed him about the trip, suggesting I postpone or find someone else. After I asked why, he stated he was afraid about me traveling alone. I've gone for work many times without problems, so his fear seemed odd. I watched my spouse and closest buddy enter an elevator in a Philadelphia hotel lobby from behind a plant. I wanted to chase them and confront them, but my legs wouldn't move. Instead, I went back to my hotel, threw up in the bathroom, and spent the night staring at the ceiling, unsure what to do. I delayed confronting them. I had a presentation the next day and wanted to think straight. Autopilot got me through the lecture. My coworkers praised me for success, oblivious that I was falling apart. I checked our phone records on the trip home. Miles and Grace exchanged hundreds of texts over the preceding few months, frequently late at night when Miles said he was working. I also saw multiple purchases on our credit card for eateries I had never eaten at on nights. Miles stated he was working late. Miles was usual when I got home. He inquired about my presentation and travel. I answered briefly, studying his expression for guilt. Nothing existed. He appeared unfazed after spending the night with my best buddy in Philadelphia. I mentioned it after dinner. I placed my phone on the table with a screenshot of our phone record displaying all his texts with Grace. First Miles looked at the TV, then me. The color left his face. I inquired about its duration. He initially denied it, saying they were work texts. I informed him I saw them at the hotel, and he went silent. He acknowledged they had been cheating for 3 months after what felt like hours. Miles says it began with carpooling and business meals. They started messaging non-work topics. Dinners followed drinks to discuss projects after work. They crossed the boundary one night. He said he tried to end it multiple times but failed. He never intended it. Loved me, and had feelings for Grace. I wondered if he would have told me if I hadn't caught them. Looking aside and not responding was enough. I told him to leave the house. He insisted that we needed to discuss this to resolve things. I reminded him he had time to discuss it before sleeping with my best friend. He left with a bag. I don't care where he went. I haven't contacted Grace. I want to face her, yell at her, and ask how she betrayed me. But another part of me understands, there's no explanation that would lessen this pain. My choices will be discussed with a lawyer next week. Although Miles and I don't have children, we own a house, savings, and investments. Our marriage may not survive. It's unclear if I want it. What I'm looking for is unclear. Support, advice. Guess I needed to put it all somewhere. My world has fallen, and I'm attempting to go forward. Update 1. My previous post was 3 weeks ago, and much has transpired. First, thanks to everyone who offered advice and support. Your letters made me feel less alone during my worst days. Miles slept at a hotel for a week after leaving that night. I changed our house locks and packaged most of his clothes and belongings. While working, I left them in the garage for him to pick up. We solely talked about practical topics via SMS. Grace started calling and messaging me non-stop, 2 days after he left. She generated fresh email addresses to contact me after I banned her number. She came to my house one night. I didn't enter. Instead, I filmed her beating on my door and yelling through the mail slot to explain. Later, I transmitted the video to her parents, who always treated me like a daughter. They were appalled by her actions and agreed to discuss respecting my boundaries. Miles invited me to talk a week following my discovery. I arranged to meet at a public coffee shop where I could leave. Unwashed hair and black shadows under his eyes made him appear horrible. I nearly felt sorry for him. Almost. He apologized for his biggest error and promised to remedy it. Listening without interruption, he blamed work stress, feeling neglected due to my long hours and Grace's persistent pursuit. Then I left. He grabbed my arm to stop me, and I shouted to let go. After several coffee shop patrons looked, he released me and apologized sincerely. I told him I simply wanted to discuss our divorce. He sobbed and begged. I left after giving him my lawyer's number. A stranger called me later that day. Grace's mother requested a visit. I agreed because I've always loved and admired her. She brought my favorite homemade lasagna, and a sincere apologies for her daughter's actions. She said Grace told her everything, and that she wasn't apologizing for her daughter's behavior. She also said something that paused me. Grace reportedly has jealousy issues since high school. I always thought we had a fair connection, but Grace's mother said I eclipsed her intellectually and socially. This didn't justify her behavior, but it explained why she targeted my spouse. I checked our home computer the day after meeting Grace's mother. Miles always managed our combined finances, saying he liked numbers. What I found startled me. He had been transferring $250 and $350 from our combined savings to a separate account for months. The amount was approximately $18,000. When questioned via text, he said it was for a surprise anniversary trip. Our anniversary was 8 months away. I also found 7 months of communications between Miles and Grace, before the 4 months he admitted to. The relationship wasn't romantic at initially, but it grew beyond borders. They made inside jokes about coworkers, moaned about their relationships, including me, and planned more time together. Miles' email to Grace stood out. He stated how nice it was to chat to someone who understood him, indicating I never did. That hurt almost as much as the physical betrayal. I finally met with them 2 weeks after discovery, with my brother for support. Each requested this meeting, claiming they wanted closure. I decided to listen to them once and then move on. We met at my brother's. Grace arrived first, then Miles. Despite being personal enough to damage my marriage and our friendship, they sat awkwardly apart. First, Grace spoke. She said the affair lasted 7 months, not 4, as Miles claimed. About 5 months ago, it started emotionally, and became bodily. She said it was great to be appreciated when her partner dumped her, but she never intended it. She hated herself for hurting me, and loved me like a sister. Even Miles's tale changed. He said Grace chased him aggressively, and he tried to resist, but was flattered. He felt inferior after my promotion and raise, which raised my pay above his. He revealed that he hid money not for a trip, but to protect himself from my departure. Their stories had major discrepancies. I brought this out, and they looked confused and frustrated. It was evident they hadn't coordinated their stories, each attempting to seem good. After remaining silent, my brother asked them a simple question. If you truly cared about her, why are you here making excuses instead of giving her the space she requested? Both had a good reply. After the encounter, they parted ways. A few days later, a coworker told me Miles and Grace were chastised for their inappropriate connection. Employee connections were allowed, but HR had to be informed, which they hadn't done. Grace's projects with Miles received more resources and attention, leading to charges of favoritism. A transfer to the company's Seattle office was confirmed by Miles' SMS yesterday. He said it was to give me space, but I think it was to save his career after the HR difficulties. Asked if this affected us, I informed him that divorce proceedings would continue regardless of location. Grace, according to mutual acquaintances, has been spinning a different story, claiming Miles chased her constantly, and that she ended things when she understood how serious it was. She's also been contacting our pals individually, to preserve their relationships. Most have rejected her appeals and supported me. The divorce proceeds. Our house is for sale, and I found a tiny apartment near my office. My lawyer is attempting to include the concealed money in our asset divide after I notified him. I still grab for Miles out of habit some mornings, forgetting what occurred. I'm taking it day by day, but the realization hits me again. Weekend hiking with a group gives me something to look forward to. The support from my coworkers when I require time off for lawyer appointments or mental health days has been surprising. Please check back after the house sells and the divorce is finalized. Until then, I'm reconstructing my life without 2 individuals I assumed would always be there. Update 2. It's been 3 months since my last update and 6, after discovering the affair. My divorce is almost official, and I'm reconstructing my life. House sold faster than expected. Our local real estate market is booming, and we had many bids within days of listing. An offer above asking price was accepted. Miles claimed he had invested more in the house over the years, and tried to get me to take less. My lawyer swiftly disproved that with proof that my contributions were higher after paying for improvements and maintenance. As planned, Miles moved to Seattle. He requested a final meeting before leaving. Against my better judgment, I consented. He visited the practically empty house the day before I left. He broke down in our empty living room surrounded by boxes. He admitted that Grace and he broke up soon after being caught. He said they discovered they had little in common other than treachery, without the pleasure of secrecy. He said he broke up with her before moving to Seattle. Miles' confession that he was visiting a therapist to identify a pattern in his conduct was the most startling. Apparently, he cheated before. He admitted to brief gym relationships with women in our first and third years of marriage. My judgment was further questioned because I never suspected anything. When asked why he was telling me this now, he stated his therapist advocated complete honesty for his recovery. Though his honesty came too late to repair our relationship, I enjoyed knowing the whole truth. Grace has been working to repair her reputation among our friends. She attended church regularly for the first time and posts about development, forgiveness, and second chances on social media. She also wrote me a long, handwritten letter, apologizing for the affair, and subtly blaming me for Miles's emotional neglect that drove him to her. I ripped up the unfinished letter. Grace doesn't realize that Alicia, one of our mutual acquaintances, has been telling me about her behavior. Grace has been dating several men, including a married coworker, according to Alicia. She also complains to everyone that I was dominating and that Miles was stuck in our marriage. While I appreciate Alicia's recording of these chats, I informed her it's unnecessary. Just moving forward. Not gathering evidence for a vendetta. Grace's mother and I met at the grocery store a month ago. Her coldness contrasted with our last meeting. I inquired if everything was good, and she replied Grace informed her I was lying to mutual friends and trying to dismiss her. I politely mentioned that I hadn't spoken to anyone at their company and had avoided addressing Grace. She was skeptical but promised to discuss it with Grace. She later texted me to apologize for her coldness and say she should not have believed Grace without checking with me. Work-wise, I got promoted last month. I won a big client with my presentation the day after uncovering the affair. My employer said that project showed my pressure handling skills. If only he knew. My new flat is modest, yet beautiful. A renovated factory with high ceilings and huge windows is a short walk from a park where I jog every morning. Due of his moderate allergies, Miles always opposed my shelter cat adoption. She's my loyal buddy, greeting me at the door and sleeping with me every night. I've resumed casual dating. My colleague introduced me to her brother, and we've had 3 great but boring dates. I'm not ready for anything serious, but knowing that portion of my life isn't over feels fantastic. The hardest thing is family gatherings. Having raised Miles like a son, my parents were saddened by the divorce. They accepted my decision but were disappointed. Several relatives asked about Miles or commented on how unfortunate it was that such a wonderful couple couldn't work out at my niece's birthday party last weekend. I answered briefly and switched topics whenever feasible. One unexpected highlight has been reconnecting with old pals I lost throughout my marriage. I later discovered Miles gently discouraged friendships, especially with singles or wild people. My weekend trip with 2 college pals I hadn't seen in years was the most fun I've had in years. Within weeks, the divorce should be finalized. Miles has been fairly accommodating, accepting most of my requirements without objection. My lawyer says this is usual when a cheating spouse feels bad, but urges me to be watchful as we complete. For now, I'm living day to day. Some days are better. Now and again, I feel anguish and betrayal, but less often. Looking forward to the day when I can forget them both for 24 hours. Update 3. 6 months have passed since my previous update, and almost a year since my life changed. My last update is because I'm ready to end this chapter of my life. A divorce was concluded 4 months ago. Miles didn't contest anything, so we split our assets equally, including his concealed money. After getting the final documents, I went to a lovely supper, ordered a costly bottle of wine, and celebrated my new beginning. I was alone and raising a glass to divorce papers, yet it felt right. The waiter probably thought I was insane. Miles stayed in Seattle. We haven't spoken since the divorce, but he periodically emails to check in or share a story. Not responding. His new girlfriend is a Seattle coworker, according to mutual pals. I wish her better luck than myself. Grace's social reputation is irreparably destroyed. Her attempts to portray herself as the victim backfired when she got drunk at a mutual friend's wedding, and admitted to many people that she had chased Miles to prove she could. She loathed me for years, believing I had everything she wanted, a good profession, a steady marriage, and her parents' approval. She took Miles from me to prove she could have them too. The wedding guest Alicia revealed this. Intoxicated Grace approached her and made a tearful confession that became a weird excuse for her conduct. Alicia promised to email me a phone recording of the conversation. I declined. No need to hear Grace's voice again. Grace quit her job and went several states back home following this happened. She moved back in with her parents, saying she needed a fresh start away from the toxicity in her life. Her mother sent a long email apologizing again for her daughter's behavior and wishing me happiness despite what occurred. I appreciated the offer but didn't reply. It's my past family. Fortunately, my career is thriving. The client I won in that fateful presentation has referred several significant clients to our firm, and I'm in charge of a new department focused on these high-value connections. The extra responsibilities and a large raise allowed me to buy a little house in a neighborhood I've always enjoyed. Thank goodness my last update's casual dating didn't get serious. This time has been spent on me, revisiting activities I abandoned during my marriage, and strengthening friendships. I've taken cooking classes, joined a reading group, and even tried rock climbing, which terrified me but is now a weekly highlight. My family no longer discusses reconciliation or Miles at gatherings. My mother, who urged me to work things out, is now my biggest supporter. She recently told me she was proud of my handling of everything, and that she wouldn't have had the resolve to leave as firmly. Miles' sister, with whom I'd always been close, surprised me last month. She wanted to come to my city for work and meet for coffee. I agreed, intrigued about her goals. She confessed during our conversation that Miles had been unfaithful in past relationships, something his family recognized but never challenged him about. She said she thought marriage would alter him and regretted for not warning me before our wedding. She added that Miles and his new fiancée were already dealing with tales of his wandering eye's return. This didn't surprise me, but it kind of validated me. The biggest change is how I see relationships and trust. For months after discovering the affair, I wondered how I could have been so blind to what was happening. My unwillingness to acknowledge warning signs was the problem, not my inability to notice them. I felt weird sometimes but ignored my fears to keep calm. I swear I won't ignore those feelings again. I attended a college friend's wedding alone. Several people offered awkward sympathies or promised to help me find someone new after my divorce. I told them I was happier than I had been in years, instead of deflecting or shifting the issue as I would have months earlier. The astonished looks on their faces showed me how much society associates loneliness with sadness. That doesn't mean I'm against another relationship. I'm no longer eager to replace Miles. The worst thing about betrayal is being bitter or skeptical of everyone. Instead, I'm becoming more selective about who I trust, while still being open to true interactions. No magic moment totally erases betrayal, hurt, in my opinion. Some days, a song or place will bring back painful memories, but they are infrequent and brief. The shock and despair have faded into a peaceful acceptance that it was never about me. My erroneous trust in two people's shortcomings and weaknesses. No more updates after this, not because my life won't change, but because Miles and Grace no longer belong in my story. My girlfriend said, my ex needs me, and spent the night with him on our anniversary. She didn't know she had lost the $10,000 engagement ring. Now, she begs. How are you, viewers? Before we move on to the video, I would want to make a request of you. If you are interested in viewing other information similar to this, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. I am grateful to you. No one was able to hear my voice. The vase that she had purchased should not have been tossed into the loom against the wall, as I should have known better. I did not make the request to see her phone, she made the request. At the point where one has reached a certain level of comprehension, rage does not appear to be contributing to anything. It was 7:30 the morning. There is a day on Saturday. Charlotte, who had been my girlfriend for the past 4 years, had just walked in through the front door of the house at that precise time. It seemed as though she was in a state of disorder, but in reality, she was not. Recently, I came to the conclusion of spending the night at a hospital, where I was able to save the life of another individual, an absolute disaster. The fact that I had been awake till 4:30 the morning seemed to be the situation, damaged by getting together over unpleasant situations while drinking inexpensive wine. Her keys were accidentally dropped on the console table, which she had been using. The boom resonated throughout the apartment, which was otherwise silent, like a shot from a gun. I was sitting on the couch wearing the same clothes that I had worn the night before, which comprised of a tidy button-down shirt and jeans. I was wearing the same clothes since the previous evening. There was no sleep that I had obtained. She made the statement, "Oh, you're awake," as she took off her boots and walked away from her feet. She pretended to have a headache by stroking her temples in an effort to elicit compassion from the audience. She walked alongside me on her way to the kitchen, anticipating that I would follow her like a dog and that I would query as to whether or not she was okay. God, what a nightmare. I am exhausted, she remarked as she walked by me. I am extremely exhausted. When I did not move, she halted what she was doing and spun around to the opposite direction. The atmosphere underwent a shift. She was able to observe the garments. As she stood behind me, she took notice of the candles that were sitting on the dining table but were not lit. A bottle of vintage Cabernet that had not been opened was available for purchase, and the price was $150. It was positioned next to 2 glasses that were completely watertight and devoid of any liquid. At the same time that she groaned, she spoke the words, "Ethan, please," in a tone that was dripping with anticipation and displeasure. "Don't do this. Don't start." My inquiry was, "Start what?" And the tone of my voice was disturbingly emotionless. From beginning to end. The silent treatment thing. Liam was in a really bad place. Okay? He was spiraling. He called me in a panic. If I hadn't gone over there, I don't know what he would have done. Liam, the broken bird, who was her ex-boyfriend, was the culprit. For a period of 2 years prior to my arrival, she had a relationship with him that was fraught with issues. The person who, when they were 24 years old, had a passion for being a DJ and who, now that they are 29 years old, continues to be a DJ. I had been the rock, the stable engineer, who was responsible for paying the bills, planning the excursions, and replacing the sinks that were leaking throughout the course of 4 years. I had been in charge of every single one of these things. Liam, the artist who worked in a chaotic manner, and only called when he was either broke, high, or lonely, was the source of the problem. It was our 3rd anniversary. "Charlotte," I said to her. It was amazing. We had reservations at El Bernardine. I booked that table 3 months ago. Her eyes were looking away from her. To be more precise, they were rolled. I know, and I feel bad about the dinner. I do, but this was a life or death situation, Ethan. He was talking about ending it. What kind of person would I be if I ignored that because of a dinner reservation? That turned out to be the situation. It is the defining moment. Due to the fact that I was concerned about our accomplishment, she was making an effort to portray me as the antagonist. Therefore, I responded by asking, "So, he was suicidal?" "Yes." "He was hysterical. Did you call 911? Something came to a halt in her. "What?" "If he was an immediate threat to himself, you should have called emergency services professionals." "Did you call them?" "No, Ethan. I didn't call the cops on him. He just needed someone to talk to. He needed to not be alone." I stood up and approached her in the direction that she was going. Because I was getting closer, I was able to pick up on the smell. It was not the antiseptic odor that one might expect in a crisis center or a hospital waiting room. The aroma was not that. It was a particular instance, vape smoke that had been sitting about for a while. The sour taste of IPA that had been spilled. And behind all of that, there was the intense and pungent scent of Santal 33, which is Liam's signature fragrance smell. I stated to you. You smell like a dive bar. And I meant it. She blushed. And her cheeks turned a deep scarlet color as a result of her regret. After he calmed down, we had a drink to settle his nerves. We fell asleep watching a movie on the couch. Nothing happened. You missed our anniversary to get drunk with your ex-boyfriend because he was lonely. Her voice was piercing as she shouted out. He needed me. And her voice was heard breaking. God, you are so insecure. You can't handle that. I care about people. You would have understood if you actually trusted me, instead of being so jealous. Additionally, it was broken in that statement. You would have understood if you trusted me. When I stared at her, I did not just stare at her. I looked directly at her. I could see the smear of eyeliner that she had not removed from her face, that she had left behind. The defensiveness that she exhibited was something that I could see clearly. She did not show any signs of regret. It seems that she had the right to draw my attention to herself. She had the misconception that she was entitled to my stability throughout the period of time when she was attempting to satisfy her emotional needs as a result of the chaos that was her background. She had a strong urge to play the part of a nurse to a man who simply refused to grow up. In addition to that, she asked me to pay the rent for the apartment that she settled into when she arrived back at her house. There was not a single more word that I uttered. After turning around and passing past her, I went inside the bedroom despite the fact that I had just walked by her. Ethan, where are you going? Are you walking away from me? She asked as she followed me and raised the level of her voice. Are you walking away from me? First, I pulled my baggage from the highest shelf in the closet. Then I hurled it right onto the bed. And finally, I proceeded to open it. Her laughter was harsh and outraged, and she cried, "Oh my God, you have got to be kidding me." Her tone of laughter was harsh and indignant overall. You're packing because I helped a friend. You are being so dramatic right now. I had to walk in order to reach the dresser. I opened the drawer that contained the socks. Ethan, stop it. Talk to me. I groped for something that was hidden in the back of the drawer, underneath the thick wool socks that I used when I went hiking. My fingertips lightly stroked the velvet, which was a cool and fluffy material. It was I who proceeded to remove the box. The package was quite small, and was completely navy blue in color. On the inside was a platinum band that included a solitaire diamond that weighed 2 carats that was set in platinum. For a period of 8 months, I had been setting aside money specifically for it. My journey of 2.5 hours was aimed at a particular jeweler, in order to achieve the desired level of perfection in the cut. On the previous evening, a proposal was scheduled to take place while dessert was being consumed. I turned around an entire degree. Charlotte was standing there with her hands on her hips, getting ready to launch into another diatribe about how I lacked empathy. The doorway to the bedroom was open, and she was standing there. When she was finished, she took a look at my hand. When her mouth opened, she was in the middle of a statement, but the sound was unable to continue because it died in her throat. Her eyes widened in both directions. Not only did her face become pale, but it also